Welcome to the latest episode of the Gull-Mouth Action Podcast, where we take a look at all things Brighton, Hove Albion and Crawley Town. I'm Matt Poll, and this week I'm joined by Brighton writers Derren Howard and Sam Morton, as well as Crawley Town expert Mark Dunford. The Reds left it late to snatch a valuable point at home to Swindon on Saturday, sparking jubilant scenes at the Broadfield Stadium. Brighton, meanwhile, weren't in action this week, but there's still plenty of Albion talking points to discuss. This week, we'll look back at Crawley's thrilling draw with Swindon, reveal why Reds boss Scott Lindsay was left fuming with the referee at full time, and bring you all the latest Seagulls news ahead of this weekend's trip to Sunderland. You can read all the stories we're talking about, videos and pictures online at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. And we will start this week with Crawley Town, who claimed a valuable point in their battle against relegation on Saturday. Kellen Gorgon's dramatic stoppage time goal gave the Reds a deserved point in a stirring 2-2 draw with promotion chasing Swindon. After Clyde Lawless's opener for Crawley, goals from Aaron Drynan and Billy Bowden looked to have given Swindon victory. However, Gordon rescued a valuable point for Scott Lindsay's side in the 8th minute of added time with a close-range shot. And it was absolute bedlam at full time, wasn't it, Mark? Sum that Red performance up for us, please. And where does that leave them in the League Two relegation battle?
Yeah, it was one of their, if not their best performance of the season. Swindon obviously automatic promotion chasers, been on a really good run, but Crawley played them off the park. They were absolutely magnificent, and they just had no luck in terms of chances, in terms of refereeing decisions, which I know we're coming on to, but they were brilliant, and they deservedly took the lead. Clyde Lawless, and it was great to see him celebrate his first goal since coming back. We just need Orsi and Darcy to do the same. But it was interesting because he dropped Darcy and brought in Dion Pereira, and we didn't see Darcy at all on Saturday. So, and it worked really well with Pereira and Lawless in those number 10 roles. So that's interesting how that's going to work going forward, because Darcy's obviously quite a big player for Crawley. But then, it was a penalty that made it 1-1, and it was a debatable penalty decision, shall we say. And then it got to the 90th minute, and Billy Bowden scored, and everybody's heads just dropped. And Steve Herbert, one of our columnists, wrote that he walked out straight as soon as Swindon scored. There was 8 minutes, I think it was 8 minutes of added time in the end, or 9 minutes. But Swindon scored, and a load of people stood up and walked out. But there was still like 7 or 8 minutes left, and Crawley were going for it, and then just with almost the last kick of the game, Kellen Gordon and Harry forced to put a ball across, and it missed everybody sort of at the near post, and then it just sort of went to just past the penalty spot, and there was Kellen Gordon and Swindon midfielder, I think it was, they're both running towards it, and he thought there's only one person getting this. And he absolutely levered it with his left foot and got there just first and went in, and the whole Crawley subs bench, including Scott Lindsay and that, ran down the touchline to jump in the air and celebrate. It was Mourinho-esque. And it was the least they deserved. And it sort of, tensions were high in the game anyway, mainly because of the referee. And then that tumbled over into the celebrations afterwards. And now, because it was like they snatched a win, even though it was only a point. But it was a really important point. And other results did go their way Saturday. Harrogate and Newport both lost. Barrow had lost Drew, or lost the night before. I can't remember. Drew, didn't they? The night before, I think it was. Yeah. And then obviously Barrow lost last night as well to Bristol Rovers. So they're now 21st. They're still only, they're on 29 points. Barrow below them are on 28 points. Newport on 28 points and Harrogate on 27 points. So it was only a point they won on Saturday, so they're not out of it at all. But it really has now sort of condensed into just that little mini group of 4 teams struggling to avoid relegation. But if Crawley play like that, there's going to be no issues at all with them staying up.
I know in past episodes we've spoken about Crawley's should we say profligacy in front of goal, if I can say the word. Do you reckon those couple of goals will mean the goals now flow after that, especially in the way they won it? Its confidence must be sky high.
You'd hope so, yeah. You really do hope so. I mean, now Lawless has got his first. Hopefully that gives him confidence going forward. And it was his best game since he's returned from to the club. You just need Orsi to get one. But Kellen Gordon was brilliant on Saturday. We gave him 9 out of 10, I think, in the player ratings. But you just hope that, this really does kickstart this final run in now.
Absolutely. And kind of linked to that post-match, Lindsay said he felt the Reds weren't going to lose to Swindon, while goal hero Gordon said Crawley should have beaten the Robins. And from what you've said, Mark, it sounds like you kind of agree with them. And what do you make of this Reds mindset? It's this positivity will surely bode them well in the weeks to come.
It's got to, hasn't it? Because they've got no choice. They've got to win games now, or at least not lose. And yeah, Lindsay said afterwards, we weren't going to lose this game today. I know, because of how we prepared for this game, how we trained all week. The meeting before the game was something special that we did, something different. And the feeling in the room was, there's no way we're losing this game today. And they just showed their character was amazing. And I said to Scott afterwards, even though he didn't really want to talk about the game, he only wanted to talk about the referee. I said, did he feel that it was their first proper 98 minutes in the end, but performance of the season? Because they've had good first halves, they've had poor first halves, they've had good second halves, but they've never been able to string two really good two halves of football together, and they did on Saturday. And Kellen Gordon said we had lots of chats, just the lads with the gaffer, about a lot of things that we want to improve on. I think we implemented all of it this week into that performance, and it really did show. And I think, they can't look back now. They can't look back. They can't think of, oh God, remember when we lost this terrible game or whatever. They've got to just focus on what they did in that game and take that forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully that's a catalyst for them. And I feel like we should probably speak about this referee decision now, Mark. Wouldn't you agree? Lindsay, he described Swindon Town's penalty, did Scott Lindsay, as the worst decision he has seen in football. As his frustration with officials worsened. He's not had much luck with refs this year, has he, poor Scott Lindsay? Tell us about the penalty, Mark. You kind of alluded to it, but what did you make of the decision? And was Lindsay right in what he said?
I think there were worse decisions in this game. So the worst decision he's ever seen in football surprised me when he said that, because he's had a lot of things to say about some decisions this year. I mean, in the cold light of day when I watched it live, it looked like Scott Malone pulled down Matebe of Swindon. It was a corner and he was at the far post and the ball came over and Matebe ended up on the floor. Scott Malone was behind him and looked like he might have pulled him, but that was just live, instant reaction. Weirdly, the referee looked like he pointed for a goal kick, but all the Swindon fans cheered and then suddenly it was a penalty. If you watch it back, he points like it was a goal kick, not at the penalty spot. But anyway, that's a different... That just summed up his day, I think. But now I've looked it back, I think Matebe goes down very easily. And in the build-up, there's probably a foul on Malone from Matebe. They're having a little tussle before the corner kick's even taken. And I think Matebe even sort of hits Malone in the face. I don't know if it's deliberate, but Malone's holding his face and then he suddenly gets his thoughts together, gets behind him, and then Matebe's on the floor. So it was a debatable one. Whether VAR would have overturned it, I don't know. But it was a debatable one, and it could have been if the referee had spotted the build-up to it, it might have been a foul Crawley's way. So I can see the arguments both ways for it. But, I mean, after that, literally about 2 or 3 minutes later, Johnny Russell was tripped in the box by Will Wright. Referee said no penalty. There was one moment where Matebe absolutely... It was a high ball over and it was right on the touchline in front of the Crawley bench. Matebe went in, and I can say this because I saw it with my own eyes, elbow led into Kellen Gordon's back and just basically pushed him into the advertising boards. It was horrific. He didn't even get a foul. I think it was a throw-in the end. It was a shocking tackle, and considering what's happened this season, we know the worst possible things that have happened this season. A player doing that to another player is outrageous, and to get away with it, and that's not his fault he got away with it, but that it could have been a lot worse. Luckily, Gordon got up, and then we know what happened. But and then he just lost control after the game as well, because I think Scott Lindsay said the Swindon keeper came over and started having a go at the ref about a couple of decisions, kind of things. So Lindsay was there, and he started, and then it all kicked off. Jay Williams came in, and I think Lindsay said Jay Williams came in and did what Jay Williams does, sort of thing. And it was just absolute carnage. Lindsay said he thought the ref had a good first half. And then he said it just all went wrong. And then he actually asked me in the interview afterwards, I'm going to interview you now. What do you think? And the second half, it was one of the worst performances I've seen by an official. the Swindon penalty could have gone either way. I haven't got a big issue with that. But there was a clear penalty the other end. There was that shocking foul, and there was just little decisions here and there that were just appalling. And I'm not saying Crawley would have won if they'd got those decisions, because football doesn't quite work out like that. But he was very, very poor. And Lindsay's got a point. He said afterwards that Raf Khalili texted him straight away and said, "Have you got Mike Jones's phone number?" Now, Mike Jones is somebody who Lindsay's mentioned more than any of his players, any of his staff, anyone at the club all season. He's one of the EFL refereeing chiefs. And yeah, Raf Khalili wanted to speak to him straight away because of how poor it was. Erdem Konya wanted to go in with Scott Lindsay to see the referee afterwards. This is how bad it was. But I mean, if I'd watched it from a Swindon point of view, would I feel the same? Maybe there were decisions that went against them, but they got quite a big decision go their way. So yeah, but it was poor. You just hope that it improves, but it just seems to get worse and worse each week. And I'm a big defender of officials because I am one in the cricketing world. But yeah, they don't help themselves.
No. Who'd be a referee, eh? Certainly not.
Yeah,
me.
I certainly wouldn't. Yeah.
Well, Crawley Town are not in action this weekend. Instead, they travel to Colchester United on Friday evening. The U sit 12th in League Two and were victorious at the Reds relegation rivals Newport on Saturday. How do you see this one going, Mark? And what's the latest injury news from the Crawley camp?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Colchester have won 2, lost 2 and drawn 1 of their last 5, so they're incredibly inconsistent recently. I mean, Crawley are consistent in the fact that they haven't won in the last 5 games. But Crawley have got to go there and play like they did. And if they did, they can certainly get something, if not a victory. Injury-wise, it was encouraging to see Danny Cashman and Harry McCurdy were both warming up before Saturday's game. Harry McCurdy, some journalist spoke to him before the game, and he said probably a couple of weeks away, unlikely to return. You've obviously got Max Anderson, who's been out for a while. Louis Copley's out still. Hopefully they can start with the same 11 because it worked really well. Like I say, with Pereira. Whether Darcy comes back in, where would you play him if he does? I don't know. But yeah, I think it's a real opportunity under those Friday night lights on TV. Hopefully they've had some good sort of away performances. Walsall away was a really good performance earlier this season. Chesterfield away, where they picked up points. MK Dons away, where they picked up a point. So all they got to do is not lose. And I think there's a really good opportunity to get something at Colchester.
The Reds then entertained Barnet on Tuesday night. This game will see striker Kabi Shamanga return to the Broadfield Stadium for the first time since his January move to the Bees. Same question again, Mark. How do you see this one going? And although Shamanga wasn't at the club long, I was originally going to ask you if you think he'll get a good reception from the Red supporters, but will he get any kind of reception at all, considering he was only in their squad for about 5 minutes?
Yeah, it's a funny one because he didn't do anything wrong at Crawley.
No.
He didn't set the world alight. He scored 5 goals, which was one of the top scorers in the side before he left, and he scored as many goals for Barnet in 9 games than he did for Crawley in 23 appearances. So I think they'll give him a nice welcome, or like you say, it'll be a bit of a it's him again. Sort of welcome, yeah. But I mean, I interviewed him a couple of times, and he seemed like an absolutely lovely bloke. And whenever he played for Crawley, he gave his all, and he scored a couple of important goals. Goal at Gillingham, I remember. There was a game at home as well where he scored an equaliser late on as well. But Barnet again, another side that are quite. I think they've lost 3 of their last 5, won 2 of them. So again, a bit of inconsistency there. Colchester and Barnet, they've both got chance of getting in the playoffs, but realistically, I don't think they will. I think they're just a little bit too far off it. But so whether they feel they've got much to play for, but they'll look at Crawley and think, this is an easy 3 points. But yeah, after Saturday, I think Crawley can go into both games getting something out of it. And 4 points is the absolute minimum they need, I think.
Fingers crossed that is the case. Best of luck to Crawley Town this week. And now we will cast our eye on Brighton, and we will start with some good news for the Seagulls. Jack Hinchelwood has signed a new contract with Albion until June 2029. The England under-21 international's previous deal, which was agreed in 2024, was due to expire in June 2028. It's always great to see an academy lad do well, isn't it, Derren? A well-deserved contract for the versatile midfielder, don't you think?
Yeah, it was. It was a nice piece of news to start the week. As you say, well deserved. He broke into the team under Roberto De Zerbi, and then his progress has just been pretty solid ever since then. And obviously, part of the England under-21s European Championships winner as well. So that's a great thing to have on his resume as well. He played at fullback during that tournament, and he's played in defence for Brighton as well. Very versatile player, and he's currently sort of finding his feet now in a more attacking midfield role. He's played all throughout the midfield, but at the moment he's almost playing as a 10 in some of the matches, and he's got that ability where he can just sort of create space and find those little gaps in the defence and then get into attacking positions. He's had a couple of really good chances in the last few matches that just haven't fallen his way. But I think he's a player who's more than capable of really nailing down that position for Brighton and chipping in with quite a few goals. I think he's got the potential to be a regular goal scoring midfielder in the Premier League. So yeah, great news for Brighton to tie him down, and I'm sure he's chuffed as well to get it over the line. There was some links last season with him potentially. Nottingham Forest was supposed to be quite keen on him as well, and there were some sort of tentative links, and I always looked at those and thought, I just can't see that happening at all. You know, he's such a Sussex lad. He's his family have played for the club in the past as well, Adam. So yeah, I think it's really good, and it's, as you say, a homegrown talent. The fans always love their own players, and perhaps with Lewis Dunk coming to the end of his career, Solly March as well, it's great that they're going to have Jack Hinchelwood as sort of one of their own, really. So yeah, good news all round.
Yeah, could not agree more. Now moving on to less positive news, unfortunately. What's happened to Jorginho this season, Sam? He's netted just twice this season. What has been his issue, and why has he not kicked on after an encouraging debut season at Brighton, do you think?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, this, really, with Jorginho, because, as you say, he really did look impressive last year. He came in, obviously, from Leeds, known as someone that's more of an assist provider than a goal scorer, and he definitely scored more goals than I think people were expecting, and he was just such a key player in the team. And what was so great about him is obviously his enthusiasm and his celebrations with the fans, and we've not really seen much of that this year, because he's just been a little bit off the pace, and he's not really been able to kind of get involved as much as he'd like. So he's obviously an unused substitute in the Nottingham Forest, Brentford and Villa matches after a poor display in the 1-0 home loss to Crystal Palace. He played the full 90 against Arsenal, and he struggled to really make an impact there. And in those kind of games against Arsenal, he's been played as the furthest forward in number 9 position, which is not his favourite position, really. And he's better in the 10, linking up play and dropping between the lines and carrying the ball. And I think when he's forced to play as that main number 9 when options are limited, it just doesn't really get the best out of him. Like even before he was at Brighton, he's never been a kind of a natural goal scorer that you can rely on for 10, 11, 12 goals a season. He's not that kind of player. So his output's definitely dropped as a result of that. I think he's just had a bit of a confidence knock, really, and he's just not been able to get back into things in recent weeks, and it's a tricky one. But Fabian Hertzler rejected kind of criticism of his performances, particularly after the one against Arsenal. He said, I think he made a good performance. Can't expect incredible things. Last season he was in a flow, so when players are in a flow, they do incredible things. We need to get him back to that. There are several things behind every player as a person with a background, a person that might have private issues. I think that's something the public should recognise as well. He said he was creative in the final 4, had some chances, had some shots on goal, and now we need to keep supporting him so he gets back into his shape. So yeah, interesting kind of where it goes from here, but it's obviously good that he's got the backing from the manager, and hopefully he can kind of show his best form again, because we've seen what he can do and how quality he is on his day.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sam, it must be so heartening as a striker, even if you know that you're not having the most prolific of spells, that the manager still has your back at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's the main thing. There's nothing worse than your manager not being on side. Obviously, we saw quite a dramatic incident with the goalkeeper for Spurs last night, Kingsley, getting substituted after 15
That
minutes.
was amazing.
3-0 down. I don't know how he's going to come back from that, bless him. That was quite horrific to watch.
I mean, Igor Tudor didn't even sort of show him any sympathy, did he? He was just like, no, you're off, mate.
No.
Cheers.
I think he got more sympathy. He got more sympathy from the Atletico Madrid fans, I think, than his own manager. So, but yeah, less about Tottenham.
That's a whole different pod. Yeah,
a whole different pod. Yeah, no, good that he's got the backing from Hertzler, absolutely, and yeah, fingers crossed that can help Jorginho get his confidence back.
Yeah, fingers crossed indeed. Now we're going to take a look at a couple of Albion injuries. Darren, Kaoru Mitoma sustained an ankle injury against Arsenal. When you saw him after the match, and it didn't look good, did it?
Really didn't. He's. I followed him out from the media room. We just finished in the press conference after the match, and as you're coming out, sometimes you see the players walking back as they make their way from the sort of changing rooms and exit the building. And yeah, I was walking, but Kaoru Mitoma was hobbling. He was on crutches. He had a protective boot on as well, and he was really struggling. He could not put any weight on his ankle at all. And yeah, I would be amazed if he's anywhere near the starting lineup, even the matchday squad for the Sunderland game this week. It's after the match, Hertzler played it down a little bit, and I was thinking, oh, well, maybe. But then after coming out of the press conference and just bumping into him, it was clear that it's a lot more serious than what Hertzler was saying. But I'm sure they'll have a scan on it. They'll get him assessed. They'll get first opinions and second opinions and see exactly what the damage is. I imagine there's quite a bit of swelling, so you have to wait for that to go down first. But yeah, it's a blow for Mitoma. He was just starting to get back getting back in the run. As Sam mentioned with Jorginho, like Hertzler was speaking about, you can start producing your best form when you're on a flow. And I think Mitoma was just getting back to that point. And this is gonna set him back. So it's a blow for the second half of the season for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, funny enough, I was actually going to ask you the same question I asked Sam about Jorginho, but for Mitoma, Darren. Not long ago, I believe he was linked with the likes of Bayern Munich, proper European heavyweights, and it's another one where it's just not really happened for him this season. What's been the cause of that, do you think?
I don't know. There's been too much of that this season. I'm sure when Hertzler looked at his squad this season, he would have thought, we've got a good chance here. I've got Baleba, Jorginho, I've got Minte, I've got Kaoru Mitoma. And I'm sure he must have thought that's a basis of a really, a team that could really do something this season. But it just hasn't happened for a number of those players, whether that is the formation, whether it's tactics, or I don't think it is. I just think the players' levels have dropped for all separate sort of reasons. Obviously, Baleba was he was sort of disrupted by the Manchester United link. Hertzler alluded to Jorginho maybe having a few issues sort of away from the pitch as well. But with Mitoma, he's struggled with injuries. He hasn't quite been right this season. He was playing for a niggle at the start, and then he was out for a spell. And I think with him, it's just he hasn't been able to get into a routine. So yeah, on his day, he's still one of the best wingers in the Premier League. But it's only happened in patches this season. We haven't seen like peak Kaoru Mitoma for a sustained period, which is a shame.
Yeah, it's very much a shame. He's a brilliant player to watch, isn't he? Really gets you up off your seat, doesn't he, when he's in full flight? Yeah,
for sure.
Such a shame. Meanwhile, Brighton striker Evan Ferguson is set for ankle surgery and is expected to miss the rest of the season, as well as Ireland's upcoming World Cup playoff semi-final. The 21-year-old, who is currently on loan at Roma, sustained the injury in the final stages of a Europa League group win against Stuttgart in January. It's another in a long line of huge blows for Ferguson, Sam, isn't it? He's had absolutely no luck at all. First and foremost, tell us a little bit about Ferguson's time at Roma. And does he still have a future at Brighton? It kind of seems that it's a bit unfair to say because he's 21, but it does feel like time's running out for him a little bit in a way.
Yeah, it is a big big concern, isn't it? And such a shame, really, that he just keeps getting these setbacks. It seems like we're constantly talking about the latest blow for Evan Ferguson, really, rather than anything positive, which is such a shame. As you say, set for ankle surgery and going to miss the rest of the season. He's actually not featured for Roma since January, sorry, not featured in the top flight since January, I should say, but sustained the injury in the final stages of the Europa League group win. So that's the situation with him, and he's obviously had the injury assessed by Brighton and Roma's medical department, and the decision to operate has been made. It will mean Ferguson will miss the rest of the season and Ireland's upcoming World Cup playoff semi-final against the Czech Republic. So yeah, another brutal season for him. Injuries have really stalled what looked like one of Europe's most promising young strikers. And the move to Roma was made obviously with the intention of rebooting his career. That had obviously, as I say, stalled in recent years, and it just hasn't quite done it. I think he's had a promising start with a few goals and looked like he could really make a name for himself, and it just hasn't really gone to plan since then. But Hertzler, to be fair, did offer an upbeat assessment. He said he had a conversation with him, and Ferguson made an interesting sentence. He said that he learned a lot. I think that's the most important. The players who are on loan learn something in a new environment, a new culture, new style of play, and they can learn how to fight and adapt in different circumstances. He said the second thing is, before his injury, he played a lot of minutes, so he had a really good phase. He scored some nice goals, was part of the team, was part of the starting 11. I think that's also the second purpose of a loan. Therefore, when I spoke to him earlier, he had a really good feeling. So now hopefully his injury is not that bad and he can recover quite fast. But after the conversation, I feel quite positive and confident that we might see a different Evan Ferguson. So with that being said, things are seemingly more positive than they immediately seem. But it would just obviously be how he recovers from this latest injury, really, and can recover from that and hopefully get back to the player we know he can be, because we've seen it. We've seen the quality that he has, and he's not going to take a poor player to come out and score a Premier League hat-trick at the end of the day against Newcastle. And I know it was such a long time ago now, but he's got that raw talent that you just need to kind of try and rediscover again. And at the end of the day, he's still just 21. So still so much time. It's a different, obviously, story when we're talking about Solly March, for example, that's 31 now and had this several injuries, been laid off for a couple of years, and then you kind of worry where that's going to go for him in the rest of his career. But with Ferguson, he's got time on his side, and hopefully that does play into his hands, and he can get back to his best. And whether that's at Brighton or elsewhere, it's a tricky one, because we know that he potentially doesn't fit into Hertzler's system. There's a reason he's gone out on loan rather than sticking around, because Brighton have been limited in those attacking options, especially with obviously João Pedro leaving. They've not really been able to replace him. Had obviously Danny Welbeck, done incredibly well for his age, and he seems to be obviously getting better and better, but he is 35, so it's difficult to rely on him to play week in, week out. And then you've got Babis, Costulas coming in and getting some games here and there, but again, really young player, and they've got no one really in between that. So for Ferguson not to be in and around that in that scenario, then you kind of wonder if he will be, because you hope that Brighton will go out there and get a ready-made striker to replace Danny Welbeck when he moves on, whether. Obviously, not sure how many years left we have him at Brighton, so it'll be interesting, really. But I would probably be surprised if Evan Ferguson's got a long-term future at Brighton. I think the chances are that he will be moved on eventually, and unless something drastically changes.
It's been a funny one for Ferguson with this Roma loan, hasn't it, Derren? Because whenever I read quotes from the Roma manager, you would have thought that Evan Ferguson had run off with his wife. He seems to absolutely hate him for no reason. Why? It just seems that Evan Ferguson has no luck at all, full stop, does he? What have you made of this Roma loan?
But prior to that, he had a tough loan at West Ham, and then obviously off to Roma. And maybe it is like tough love that the Roma manager's showing him. And he was saying these things, but he was also picking him at the time as well. So it's I think they've really tried to G him up, really tried to set a fire under him and get him working. And from what we've heard out of there, he has been working really hard. And I'm sure he will come back from this loan and he would have learned a hell of a lot, a whole new environment, a whole new way of playing football, getting new instructions, and it would have taken him completely out of his comfort zone. And having these rollickings from from the manager as well, and just seeing how these players work, in an elite environment in another club, other than Brighton, where he may have been a little bit comfortable, may have been a little bit there was talk a little bit overweight as well, and his fitness wasn't quite what it should have been. So he moves to the pasta capital of the world and goes to Rome. But I think they have worked him so hard. He's worked on his training. He's really looked leaner and sharper. And as Sam said, it was brutal that this injury came at the time when he was just starting to do quite well over there, really. But Herzella's comments offer a bit of hope that there is maybe a way back for him at Brighton, but it's going to be a big summer for him this season to see what happens with him and where he fits in. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of a shake-up at Brighton this year with a few of their fringe players. So quite where he goes with that is going to be one to watch. Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Well, the Seagulls returned to action after a 10-day break with a long trip to Sunderland on Saturday. The Black Cats have enjoyed a fine Premier League campaign after promotion via the Championship playoffs last season. They sit 11th in the table, but the Mackems were sensationally dumped out of the FA Cup last weekend by League One strugglers Port Vale. I think it's safe to say that Sunderland will no doubt be reeling after that result against Vale, Derren. Do you think Brighton will be bracing themselves for some kind of Black Cats reaction? And how are Albion stacked in terms of injuries?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game up at the Stadium of Light. They've only lost twice there all season, and I think they've been pretty impressive how they've gone about their work since being promoted to the Premier League. I think many people didn't think they would be as competitive as they were this season, but they've proved a lot of people wrong. And I quite like Regis Lebris as well, how he sets his team up. He's a very cool, calm, sort of measured manager as well. He doesn't get too worked up if things don't quite go their way. And I think the way he's approached it this season has been quite impressive as well. So they're a strong team. Obviously, Granit Xhaka's added that experience, which Brighton have proved in their last few games. You need that level of experience in your team to help guide you in the tough moments. And he can still get around the pitch, and he still does a really good job. So yeah, it's going to be a good one for Brighton, but they can leapfrog Sunderland if they're 3 points behind them. And if they get a win, they'll go above them on goal difference. So there's quite an incentive there for Brighton to jump a few places up the table if they can pick up 3 points. In terms of injury, Lewis Dunk was spotted in training this week, so he missed the Arsenal game. But that's going to be a big decision for Herzella because Boscagli did quite well against Arsenal. So if Lewis Dunk comes straight back in, that's one to watch. Obviously, Karamatoma, I don't think he's going to be near the team this week, unfortunately. And Solly March would be assessed. He had a muscular issue. Herzella assured us that it wasn't part of a knee issue. It was just a separate muscle issue. So he might be available this week. And then Adam Webster and Stefanos Tsitsipas are the long-term absentees.
Excellent stuff. Well, best of luck to Brighton this weekend. And that leads us nicely into our score predictions. And we will start with Brighton's trip to Sunderland on Saturday. Derren, how do you see this one going?
I'm going to go for a 2-2. I think there's going to be some goals in there. As I said, Sunderland don't lose much at home. They're a tough outfit. The crowd really get behind their team. I think it's going to be a tough one. So yeah, 2-2. I'm going to go for. Sam
Morton, what do you reckon?
I've got very similar thoughts on it. This match really, it's going to be a really tough one for Brighton. As Derren says, Sunderland are much better at home than they are on their travels. So I think, yeah, a draw is likely. I'll be different and say 1-1.
Are we going for a clean sweep of draws, Mr. Dunford?
Yeah, I was going to say 1-1 as well. Sunderland good at home. But Brighton, yeah, I'm normally quite down on Brighton, but I'll go for it. They get a point.
Crawley are then off to Colchester on Friday. Another tough one to call. Mark, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think they can get something out of it. I think they're going to get 4 points from the next two games, and I think they'll get a point at Colchester. It'll be another really good, solid performance, like they did at MK Dons, like they did at Walsall, like I said, but just won't quite be able to get over the line, I don't think. But if they can perform like they did on against Swindon, anything's possible.
Sam Morton, what do you think?
Well, I've set the by half myself. I predicted a 2-2 last time out, and I got that bang on, so I need to keep it going. I'm going to go outside the box here. Say Crawley going to win it 2-1.
Oof.
Come on.
Mystic Morton hopefully strikes again. Derren, what do you reckon?
I was going to say 2-1 as well, but I'll go for a 1-0. 1-0 this week. Yeah.
And last but by no means least, Crawley's home game with Barnet. So on your basis you've gone on, Mark, this is the one they're winning, I think.
Yeah, they're going to win 4-1. They're going to absolutely batter them. Yeah, I'm going for it. Orsi is going to finally get his goals. Or he might even get a goal on Friday night, and then he'll go crazy against Barnet. I think it's a real opportunity. Take advantage. Tuesday night, under the lights, it's going to be very, very exciting. And obviously, every League Two team is playing twice. And I think I've worked out Crawley will be 3 points clear of relegation by the end of these two games by all the results.
Ooh.
Yes, there you go.
Do you share Mark's optimism, Sam? 4-1 I think might be a bit much, but there's no reason why they can't win.
You never know. Yeah, obviously, a lot might depend on how things go on the Friday night. But if they get a good result there and then back that up at home to Barnet, I think it'd be edgy. I'm gonna go with another win. I'm gonna say 1-0. Two wins out of 2 would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
You never know.
They've been dreamland. Finally, Derren, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, they need the wins, don't they? So if they can get back-to-back wins, yeah, let's be optimistic. I'll go for a 2-0 to Crawley.
With the buttons that make them.
I had to use one of the sound effects.
I was surprised you showed restraint for that long. I'm very impressed. Well done.
Well, nobody predicted a defeat, so I couldn't use the boo button. So
have to save it for next week. Well, best of luck to both Brighton and Crawley this weekend, and my thanks to Mark, Sam and Derren for joining us. Don't forget you can catch up with all the latest sports news covering everything we've talked about today at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. Thank you very much for listening and or watching as ever, and we will see you all next week.
You